Learn advanced NLP understandings. Keep watching. I'm Damon, this is Life Mastery Gym, and I teach people just like you cutting-edge NLP processes and techniques so that you can master your life and take charge of your destiny. So if that sounds good, make sure you click that subscribe button right down here so you can get these videos on a regular basis. In this video, I'm going to explain the theory of scope and category. Since the beginning of NLP, people have tried to create some sort of unified field theory of NLP to bring all the component parts together, and most theories, well, I would say all theories, have fallen short of that. But this one theory, in my opinion, really encompasses that, or it does the best in bringing it all together. In this video, I'm going to explain the theory of scope and category. It's an NLP theory created by the late Steve Andreas, who was one of my mentors, and he really taught me the self-concept model. And I'm the only one he ever endorsed to teach it. And at a certain point, I said, okay, Steve, I'm ready to step up to the next level. I'm ready to understand your theory of scope and category. You know, where do I start? And he said, well, you already are using and are very effective at a model that uses scope and category. And I was like, oh, okay, well, so what's next? And scope and category is one of those theories, and Steve was great at doing this, taking really complex topics or subjects and simplifying them without losing anything, really simplifying them without losing anything. So a lot of what he taught was so simple, it's like hanging out in plain sight in front of you, and because it's so simple, we don't quite understand it. And so it will take a little bit of work and practice to understand what I'm going to explain here, but it's a lifelong study and it's a lifelong pursuit, and it's so worth it because the levels of fulfillment that you will achieve along the way are absolutely amazing. So this video is kind of like dipping your toe into that, and then you can see for yourself if you want to go further with this. I started this series, or rather I started a video where I talked about logical levels, and that was a few videos ago. I'll link this video to this one. I really explored how logical levels work. Logical levels was created by Gregory Bateson. This is not to be confused with Robert Dilts's neurological levels. I just did a video on that one. This is sort of the continuation of that video. So if you're not sure what the difference is between logical levels and neurological levels, go watch that video. It'll help clear everything up for you. So this is logical levels, and it plays into scope and category. I think of scope and category as an expansion of logical levels. So what is logical levels? Just real quick. And the example in the last few videos that I've used car. And then if you want to go down the logical levels, you're getting more specific about what kind of car. So SUV would be more specific than car. When we get more specific, we're cutting out other possibilities. And then if I get even more specific and I say, well, a Mercedes SUV, okay, well, I'm cutting out more possibilities, and then the category gets more specific and it gets smaller. And then if I go down even more and I say a blue Mercedes SUV, well, now I'm making the category even smaller and more specific. Now I can go up the logical levels, and when you go up the logical levels, it becomes more general. We overlook the distinctions of the lower levels because we're moving to a larger and larger, more general category. So a larger and more general category of car would be vehicles with wheels. Now we're including motorcycles. We also could include bicycles, anything with wheels. And then if we want to go even higher to a higher logical level, then we get into transportation. It's a bigger, broader, more general category that encompasses every kind of transportation that there is. Okay, so scope and category, how does that play into logical levels? Well, it works with logical levels. You have the same sort of function of getting more specific and or more general. Steve started to realize is that our entire lives, our entire sense of self, our sense of reality is based on a process of selecting and collecting experiences and then categorizing those experiences. When you're really, really small and before you have a fully formed personality, you're starting to have this thing that we call experiences. And then through those experiences, you're gathering information, you start to derive meaning from those experiences. You start to select and collect them. You say, okay, these are good experiences and these are bad experiences. And the sensory input will trigger you to think, okay, well, what's happening here? If I step into a particular context, I experience certain sensory input through my 5 senses, and then it triggers this idea, oh, this is going to be a good experience, or oh, this is going to be a bad experience. And then we get infinitely complex about this. We have infinitely complex categories and very, very specific categories, so very low on the logical levels. And then we have more general, broad categories. So good and bad would be an example of a very broad and general category of your experiences. Experiences such as going to a Van Halen concert, with Sammy Hagar, like that's a very specific experience. And then everybody who has that experience is going to make different meanings out of it, which is where category comes into. Everything we experience is based on a scope and a category. The category is the meaning we make of things. The scope is what is represented that lets you know how to categorize it or what meaning to make of it. So think of category as the meaning you make of an experience. The scope is how you're representing that experience. And so we can do a quick exercise right now. I like to do this exercise very, very simple. I've done it in a few of my videos. If you were to imagine or just to think about someone you trust. Now, when you think about someone you trust and you think about what they look like, usually an image comes to mind. Now, it's possible if you're very auditory, you might hear that person's voice. But if that's the case, let's simplify this because it's very easy to work in the visual modality. If you hear the person's voice, then make an image, convert that voice into an image, okay? And let's say I see that right here. I see that image of that person I trust right here to my left. And it's going to be different for you, or it might be the same, but this is not a rule. I'm just using it as an example. So let's say I see a person who I trust, who I actually know, somebody who's real. And when I imagine that person, when I see that person's face, they appear right here on the screen of my mind. And then if I think about somebody who I don't trust, where does that person? Now, typically it's going to be in a different location. This is one way that we know how to sort information. This is how we select and collect. It's also what triggers the categorization. So maybe I see that person who I don't trust right here. So the person I don't trust is here, the person I do trust is here. And I like to play this game with people and I say, okay, now take the image of the person who you don't trust, and move that into the same location as the person you do trust and give it all the other qualities, like the size of the image, the brightness of the image, the details of the image, give it all those same, what we call submodalities. And so when people try to do that, one or two things happen. As soon as they get it here, the image snaps back. And that's what we call congruence. There's a part of you that says, I don't want that there. That it's too confusing. I might actually start to trust this person. And that's the other thing that happens. So some people can do it and stick that image here. And then if they can do it, and they say, okay, yeah, I got that image here. And I say, well, how do you feel about that person now? And they'll go, wow, it's the strangest thing. I feel a little more trusting of that person. And I say, okay, now put the person back, because we don't want to trust somebody who is untrustworthy. So how does this fit into the scope and category? Well, it's the representation. It's the location is one thing. There are probably other attributes to this image, the structure of this image, that lets you know this is a trustworthy person. The same way that this location down here, this is where you put the person who you know not to trust. The categorization is untrustworthy. The scope is how you're representing that. So everything comes down to scope and category. The representation, how you're representing it, tells you what meaning to make of it. It tells you how to categorize that. Okay, so how does that work into the self-concept model? The self-concept model is a pure logical levels model. It works logically from top to bottom. You have experiences, and how you select and collect these experiences tells you what kind of qualities you believe about yourself. So it's how these experiences are represented that then triggers the category for you to make meaning of it as, I'm a good person, I'm a bad person, I'm a successful person, or I'm a failure, or I'm somewhere in between. We have ambiguous qualities. So when you bundle up all of these generalizations called qualities, we have a greater generalization on a higher logical level we call self-concept. This is your sense of self. And so when you go higher than that, when you go to a higher logical level than that, meta to this, you could ask yourself, well, how do I feel about myself? And that would be your self-esteem. So each one of these triggers a different meaning, a higher logical level category based on how this is represented. So if you want to make change and transformation and you want to use scope and category to do it, more specifically, the self-concept model, which works from scope and category, you say, okay, I value being successful, but I don't feel successful. Now, I've worked with CEOs who are very successful. If you looked at their successes on paper, it would be hard to argue with whether or not they're successful. They look, very successful. They're making lots of money. They're achieving their goals. But there's this thing called imposter syndrome. And so they may on paper look successful, but they don't feel it. So what is happening here? Well, it's the representation of their experiences that is getting in the way. So then we would go into and look at, okay, well, you want to feel successful. You want to believe you are successful. So the quality we're working with is successful. Well, what we then do is we model a quality about them, about this person, that they are certain about. So I could say, well, are you intelligent? And they go, yeah, I'm intelligent. And I say, are you sure about that? And like, yeah, I'm very sure about that. So then we go into that database of experiences of being intelligent, and I model how that person represents those experiences. Like maybe all of his experiences are visual and they occur right up here. And all of them are movies with some auditory involved in them. And maybe they have, it's a collage, and that's how he knows he's intelligent. And then I would say, well, how do you know you're successful, or how do you represent success? And that might be off somewhere else. And that's when I realized, okay, well, we need to use this scope, and we need to plug in this information, these experiences of being successful, and code it this way, represent it this way, create a scope that triggers the feeling that, or the meaning that he will make about himself, that he is indeed successful. Now, what is the importance about this? Well, if you value success and you believe you are successful, your confidence goes up, your self-esteem goes up, you will do more, you will be more ambitious, you will try more, you won't be as afraid to put yourself out there and even make mistakes because you're confident that you're a successful person. Well, what if I am a successful person on paper, like, the imposter syndrome, I can see that, I've achieved goals, but I don't feel it. Well, then I'm less likely to fulfill my potential. I'm less likely to take those chances, put myself out there, try hard. I would start to worry too much about failing because I don't believe I'm really successful. So you basically limit yourself from fulfilling your potential if you don't categorize your experiences in such a way that align with your values. When your behavior aligns with your values, your self-esteem goes up. When your sense of self aligns with what you value, then you have solid, infinite self-esteem and confidence. It's just there. And I'll take it even further than that. You start to get into the areas of feeling greater purpose and meaning in your life. And when you feel that, and it can't be taken away from you because you feel certain and solid about that, there's nothing that will stop you. So how does scope and category bring NLP and all its parts together? Well, NLP is the study of the structure of subjective experience. We could just say experience because all experience is subjective. So you can live in the same time and space as someone else, and that person could be very happy and you could be miserable and depressed, even though you might have access to all of the same resources and all of the same external luxuries and money and whatever it is. It is really up to us. We create our reality. We create our sense of self. Now, how we do that is through scope and category. So scope and category, again, how do we represent this information? How do we represent our internal map, which is what NLP is all about. It's about mapping and modeling. So scope is about understanding that. And then based on the scope, based on what we access, how we access this information from within us, how we represent it from within us, determines the category, the meaning we make of it. So what is the meaning that I make of my experiences? What is the meaning that I make of my experiences of the world around me? What is the meaning that I make of myself, of who I am? This is all, you can all find this based in scope and category. Now, it's huge. There's a lot to explore here. There's so many different ways that we represent things and code things, then that triggers meanings, and it mostly happens unconsciously. So the idea behind understanding scope and category and maybe getting more specific in understanding the self-concept model is to be able to go into the unconscious, your unconscious, or if you're a therapist or a coach, someone else's unconscious, and basically elicit all this and understand it. So what's working really well? What qualities are you certain about within yourself? What qualities do you value? What qualities do you value that you're not experiencing within yourself? Okay, how do you represent qualities that are certain? All right, let's take that structure, elicit that structure, and then map across your experiences so that you do make the meanings, the powerful meanings about yourself that you value. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to understand this and to be able to make it work. To me, this is what all personal development, all self-improvement is aiming for, what that attempt is to do, to improve ourselves, to improve our lives, to live more meaningful and fulfilling lives. You will find it in this theory of scope and category. It's a little more easier to access through the self-concept model. And if you want to go deeper with this, you want to learn more about the self-concept model, we will be doing a 3-part webinar. It'll be happening next week. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday we'll be doing morning and evening times because I know some of you are in different parts of the world watching this. So you want to get on this right away. If you go to the description right here down below, you will see a link. Click on that link and you'll see a place where you can enroll. The spots are limited, so you want to make sure that you get in and save your spot. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and click the bell so you'll be notified when I put new videos out. And last but not least, if you can think of a friend or a family member who could benefit from watching this video, make sure you share it with them. Take care.